Leslie started telling me like all these names, and it's just like Randy and Stephanie and this and that, and I'm just like, oh. And there's Michael, and there's and I'm just like, I don't even, I'm like starting to write this down. Okay, Randy, okay, great. Leslie, okay, good, I got it. Stephanie, and then, so I'm just so a mess. I couldn't even tell what was going on, but yeah, and then you and I talk, and it was so good. And the thought that kept coming to me was just that I just feel so blessed to have more family in my life.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
connected to someone. Wow, that's so cool. And I have these half siblings, and they're amazing. And I was just like, it's a shock, right? Like you said. Anyway, so that's the day that I found out. And of course, I'm calling my kids, and they're all asking questions, and everybody's on Facebook trying to find out who Brent is and who Randy is, and all the we're just looking all over, trying to like piece it all together. And I see Randy, and I see pictures of Randy, and see pictures of Leslie, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they look like me. I look like them. Well, welcome everybody. We're here on the podcast, Push Each Other to the Top, and today's going to be a little bit different. We're gonna talk about how we're related and how we got connected, and that whole story. That'll be fun to go through.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be fun.
Yeah, this will be a little bit
Quite a
different.
story.
Yeah, yeah. Well, where do you want to start? Like, you want to start with your side, and then
Well, yeah, I think I'll probably start, how it all began, with Stephanie, Randy's daughter.
yeah,
Stephanie, we would have little family get-togethers, and Randy lives in Missouri, and they have a bit of a ranch there, about 70, 80 acres, I don't know. But we'd go out there for whatever occasion. I'd always go out there with my mother, and my mother loved campfires. So Mark, Randy's husband, would always go out, and they had a fire pit, and they'd build a big, bonfire, and we'd go out and sit in the chairs and stuff. And we're all sitting around, and, Stephanie just, I heard her talking to my mom, and she's saying, "Grandma, come on. I mean, look around. Our last name's Swanson." And it's just like, "Come on, Grandma, look around. We're all so dark. Don't tell me we're Swedish, Grandma, what was going on?" I mean, because and Stephanie would always say that we were Italian. She says, "I know we're Italian, and Dad's in the mafia. Grandpa's in the mafia."
yeah,
So, and I heard this story years, before I did anything. And she would not let this thing go. Every time we got together with Grandma, she would somehow, it would get back to this. "Come on, Grandma, look at us. We're all dark, and we something's going on here. I know we're Italian." And my mother'd laugh it off, and "Steph, you're crazy," and she wouldn't say much about it. Well, like I say, that went on for a long, long time, and then uh, Grandma passed away in 2016. Um, in fact, it's really close to today, I think.
cool.
I don't know why I blank it out, but I do. Maybe that's why we're telling the story tonight.
There you go.
But anyway, she passed away, and shortly thereafter, Stephanie called me on the phone, and asked how I was doing, and this and that, and it gets right back to that story again. And I just told her, I said, "Stephanie, I am so sick of this story. I mean, you will not let it go." I said, "Once and for all, I'm going to prove you wrong. And so I know we're not Italian, blah, 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 And I said, while you're on the phone, and I got online, and I ordered a DNA kit from Ancestry. And I told her, I said, "Okay, I've ordered the kit. It's on its way. We're going to prove this once and for all." And she laughed and everything. Well, I don't know. A week later, the kit comes in the mail, and I spit in the tube and sent it off. And I guess it was like a week later. It wasn't very long. Didn't seem like it was very long. I was working in Elko, Nevada, and I get a hit on my email, and so on my personal email. So I open it up, and it was from Ancestry. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Here's the results, and I'm almost excited to read it. And I open up the results, and the first thing that I saw when I opened it up was Delroy Gonzalez was my brother. Well, Delroy Gonzalez, the Gonzalez family, and the Swanson family, they all lived together up in Park City. And my dad and Roy Gonzalez had a business in Salt Lake. So and we grew up together. I grew up with Delroy, his brother Terry. There was Lean and Peggy and their mother Betty, and we all hung out together. Because we're from Park City, so when we went to Salt Lake, we didn't know anybody, so we all did everything together, camping, all the holidays, everything. And so when it came out that Delroy was my brother, I knew right away that I was a Gonzalez.
Hmm.
And boy, that was a shock. I'll tell you what, I'm 60 years old, and suddenly I find out that my dad's not my dad. The person I thought was my dad my whole life suddenly wasn't my dad.
Hmm.
And I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I'm driving home. I had 350 miles to drive home. And another thing that came up on the Ancestry hit was I had a daughter, and she lived in Atlanta. And I was like, oh my Lord, what the heck is going on? When I get hold of Stephanie, I'm going to wring her neck, opening up this box of worms. It's like, this
Right.
cannot be happening. And I called Delroy, and I didn't get a hold of him, or I think I left him a message through Ancestry.
Hmm.
And I just said, we need to talk.
Yeah.
And I hadn't talked to him for years and years and years.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah. We kind of gone our separate ways,
Yeah.
getting busy with life. And so I get on the freeway, and I got my head full of this. My dad, I mean, it really hit me hard, and I was pretty upset. I mean, I was really upset. And, mom had just died, and I'd gone through so much, selling her house and I was her caregiver for the last 3 months of her life. And I was there every day. And then my sister-in-law would come over at night. But, I'd just been through so much, and I was so upset. And I'm driving down I-80 to go into Salt Lake, heading towards Salt Lake. And there was a rollover accident. It was a big diesel truck. And anyway, it was full of gas or something toxic. So they detoured us off into Ruby Valley. And it was like a 3-hour detour out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm driving out there. I get no cell phone service. And, these thoughts are going through my head. And I'll tell you what, I was up to here in stuff going on. And I had just decided, I just told myself, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to drink. As soon as I get to Wells, I'm going to go buy a bottle. Screw this sobriety thing. I can't handle no more. I'm going to drink.
Wow.
And I made up my mind that that's what I was going to do. Anyway, I get going down the road, and as far as I knew, there was no cell phone service. And my phone was laying next to me, and all of a sudden it rings. And I look, and it's my ex-wife, Elaine, who I'm really, really good friends with. We get along great. And she's, one of my better friends, to tell you the truth. Anyway, I see that it's her, and it was like almost a relief that it was her, somebody that knew the story and I could talk to, and this and that. And I pick up the phone, and she goes, Brent, she goes, I'm so sorry. I don't know how my phone called you. I never even touched my phone. I look over, and it's calling you. And I'm like, And she goes, I'm sorry, I'm going to hang up. And I'm, no, whoa, 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 don't hang up, you know? And I'm at this time, I'm in tears. I'm just beside myself.
Mm.
And I talked to her, and she kind of talked me off the cliff. And, I can't even remember what the conversation was, but we talked for a little while. And then, I remember hearing in a meeting, this was just a few weeks before this all happened. I remember a guy in a meeting saying, if you're if you make a decision that you want to drink and you're thirsty, instead of acting on that today, why don't you just give it like 24 hours? And if you feel the same way tomorrow, then you can drink. And
Mm.
that thought just went through my mind. I remember that guy's voice.
Wow.
So, and then my phone rings again, and it's a good buddy of mine, and I'm still a total mess. And I'm telling him, and I'm getting close to Wells, Nevada. I'm only like 10 miles away. I'm headed to that bottle, and his name's Richie B. He called me up, and Richie was on the phone with me, and I was telling him what was going on and all the crap that I'd been going through in the last little while. And he said something to me that I'll never forget. And he says, Brent, in recovery, we go through a lot of pain. We face a lot of pain so we can help other people. And that's not his exact words. It was better than that, how he put it. But that was the message that he told me, that we're willing to go through this pain. So when somebody else is going through these things, that we're there for them. That's what gives us the ability to talk to these people because of our own experiences. So next thing I know, I'm driving right past Wells, went right by it. So I didn't drink. So anyway, I trust me when I tell you this, I was not a happy camper. I was a mess. So I started calling the kids, and, I call Randy and tell Randy what's going on. And she almost acted like she knew it. And she goes, well, I guess you're not Italian, are you? And she goes, no, I'm a Mexican. And I guess I'm in the cartel instead of the mafia, and I got on the phone with Steph and give her an earful, and I
Yeah.
still give her an
Okay.
earful. So that's how this whole thing started. It was
Wow.
it was just kind of a fluke. Mom had passed away. So there's, all these thoughts are going through my mind, like what happened and who knew? Who knew? I mean, my closest sibling was 5 years older than me. I was the baby of the family, and,
Mm.
kind of the caboose. And did my dad that raised me, did he know?
Mhm.
Because I don't think he did. He was a mean, violent person. And I think if he would have found out, he probably would have hurt somebody. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then by this time, Delroy's calling me, and I'm talking to him, and Delroy's just the nicest, calmest guy in the world. And, he's thrilled. He's happy that I'm his brother. And, and I tell you the truth, I was happy he was my brother. Delroy and I, we're a year apart, and we were always close when we were young. And I always liked him, even though he pushed me over a chair when I was 10 years old and broke my arm. I still liked him, but I had to throw that in. Uh, so that's kind of how it all started with me. And then when I called Randy and Stephanie, they're little detectives, so they got to find out who Leslie is. Now Randy realizes that she's got a sister, and she needs to find out who Leslie is. And Leslie, we had a heck of a time getting a hold of her.
Hmm.
She'd been on Ancestry for about 3 years, something like
Okay.
that. So it isn't something she would check very often.
Yeah.
And so I think Michael did some detective work and found Leslie's husband Dale on Facebook.
Okay.
And so he's through Messenger, he sent him a message. And Dale tells the story that he was getting on an airplane to go to China. And he was at the airport just getting ready to board the plane when he gets this message that Michael sent him that, hey, I think I'm your wife's brother, and And
Wow.
so I guess Dale calls Leslie and tells her what's going on, and he gets on a plane and leaves, and then Leslie's just kind of, what the heck is going on? So we touched base with Leslie, and she made an appointment to call me on the phone. We set a time, and well, we know Leslie. She's a ball of fire, that one. But she called me. I was at work, and I went into my office. I ran into my boss's office, and I says, "Oh my God, Leslie's going to call me in 10 minutes, and I'm a nervous wreck." And he laughed, and he says, "Go get in your office. Everything's going to be fine. Blah blah blah." So went and closed the door. Went in my office and closed the door, and we ended up talking for 2 hours.
Wow.
And we just hit it off. It was just, we asked lots of questions, and if I knew her mother, blah blah blah, which I did. I remembered her mother, and her mother's story and my story were definitely different. They were not the same. She exaggerates a bit. She better not throw her under the bus, but our stories didn't match.
Not the same story. Yeah.
Not the same story. But anyway, Leslie and I ended up talking again the next day, and we talked for another 2 hours. And then I made arrangements for Randy and I to fly out to Atlanta. Well, Randy doesn't fly. She is petrified of flying. She never, ever, ever flies. So I got to really do a sales job on her to get her to get on a plane. But she finally got these three. I think there was three gals that she talked into going with her, and they all went to Atlanta. They all went with her so they could walk her through this scary getting on a plane thing, and they supported her. And before we left, I went to a jewelry store, and I had two rings made up with Leslie and Randy's birthstones in them. And so when we met, we didn't have any plans really. I mean, we were just going to meet at a hotel where we were staying, and then I didn't know what was going to happen from that point. I mean, that was about as much as we'd planned. And we get to Atlanta and get to the hotel, and Leslie shows up, and Leslie being Leslie, she made us feel so comfortable and at ease, and we ended up going to dinner, and then I presented those rings, and they all cried, and it was pretty touching. Dale was there, and Leslie and Randy and I, and we ended up. It was close to Christmas because I remember going to Leslie's house, and the Christmas tree was there, and I met her daughters. Leslie has 4 daughters, and oh my gosh, they called me BG, biological grandpa, right off the bat. Not knowing that my initials were now, instead of BS, they were BG. So
That's right.
so that was just the beginning of a wonderful, wonderful relationship with Leslie and her daughters. I'm very, very close with their kids, and we talk on a regular basis. All of them had gone to BYU, so they lived, I'd go meet them for dinner or lunch or whatever down in Provo, and
Go to the BYU games and cheer for the Cougars and all that.
no, I didn't do that, not till this last year, but no, I was a Utah fan, so I tried to get the youngest one to go to Utah instead of BYU, Sophie. So I sent Sophie a hoodie with the Utes on it, and
nice.
being Sophie, she's a lot like her mother, so she put the hoodie on and walked around the house, and they all graduated from BYU. I mean, including Dale. That's where Dale and Leslie met. So they were not very happy with me sending her that Utah jersey. So
that's all that red.
Yeah, that was a little much for them. But
that's funny.
So that was the beginning, and I thought it was the end. I got a kid, and I didn't know I had a dad that my dad wasn't my dad. So now I've got
that's a lot to take in.
4 siblings, new siblings. and I'm trying to build relationships with everybody, and it went well. I've always been at the, you know, I don't need to tell you this, but I've kind of always taken this slow, and I'm very open to relationship with anybody. But I don't want to be overwhelming either. I don't want to come across as, "Hey, I'm your dad," and I just,
Yeah.
you know, biologically, I'm your dad, but I didn't raise you. I didn't pay for your dentist, and I didn't, I didn't give you an allowance, and I didn't watch your butt when you were in trouble, or, I just wasn't a dad, and so
Yeah.
it's you really, from my perspective, you really don't know how to navigate through all that,
Hmm.
and so I've just kind of taken the approach that I'm just going to go with the flow. It seems like that's our topic lately. We're just going to
Yeah.
go with the flow, and just see where things end up, and try not to force anything, and just let things kind of happen and come to us. So, you know, I was I don't know how long after Leslie. It was quite a while after I had met Leslie. I was up in I was working up in where was I? I was in Oregon, and I'd gone up. I had a power plant that I called up in Boardman, Oregon, and it's quite a ways away from Portland. And I stayed in Portland, and I'd get up and I'd drive to Boardman Station, and I'd go up the Columbia Gorge. Beautiful drive, but it's really windy. So I'm headed back down after a long day of work, and I'm driving down, and my phone rings, and it was Aubrey, Jonathan's daughter. And she goes, "Is this Brent Swanson?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is Brent Swanson." She goes, "Well, I think I'm your granddaughter." And I'm like, "What? What did you just say?" I think I think I'm your granddaughter, and my dad is your son. And I almost fell off the road. I mean, it was like, what the heck is going on? So I can't remember how long that conversation lasted, but I got off the phone and I called Leslie immediately, and I gave her my password and everything to Ancestry, and she gets on the computer. She's on the phone with me, and she opens up my Ancestry, and she yells this huge scream. Yeah! And I'm like, what? What's going on? And she's, "You've got a son." "I've got a brother." It's like, what? So that's how we found Jonathan.
Wow.
And so it was, man, what a journey. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
So Leslie's just loving it. She just thinks this is the funniest thing in the world. And once again, I'm just knocked down. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I was, you know, I've always been the person that would, I'm not a guy that would, if I ever got a woman pregnant, I wouldn't run from it. I'd run to it. I mean, I, I love all my kids, and, I adore my children, and I've always been that way. And to have an opportunity to meet a child that I didn't even know I had, it was exciting. But on the other hand, I didn't even know how I felt. I felt uh, kind of ashamed of myself for not knowing. Kind of, it's just such a shock to your system. I can't even explain the shock.
Yeah.
Maybe the shock.
Yeah. I mean, it was a shock for me to find out too.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I mean, it was something that, I had always known I was adopted. Not a surprise there. And over the years, and especially my teenage years, and I had the best parents in the world, right? Like my mom and dad, I they're just they're just amazing. And
Yeah. Now, were you adopted through LDS Family Services? No,
no, no,
no.
I was adopted through the state.
Oh, okay.
Um, Yeah, $25 for the filing fee, and there you go. There's your kid.
There's your kid.
It's we have a
25 bucks.
yeah, we got a discount on this one. Yeah. And so yeah, it's so crazy. And so I guess, yeah, just to like my parents are amazing. And my dad is actually adopted. And so we had this whole adoption thing going. And I have four siblings, right? So there's five of us, and we're all adopted. So we're the whole adopted family thing. And so it was always a topic of, at least in my mind, of like, what should I do, right? And I always wanted to find somebody who looked like me. I think every adopted kid wants that. Like that's just so core. It's just in your DNA, to find somebody to connect to. And I love my parents and they love me and I had all the love in the world. It wasn't about love. It was about like, where do I come from? Anyway, so yeah, after all those years, I bought a DNA kit at Roots Tech in Salt Lake. They were doing a deal and we were there and we bought some. My wife was like, yeah, let's do this. I'm like, all right, maybe, like, and we moved from Utah to Arizona and that kit sat in my drawer for a couple of years.
Really?
Just, and it would pop up every now and then, like maybe I should do it, maybe not. Anyway, so I'm at work and my buddy, and I was telling him my story, and he was telling his story. He adopted some of his kids. And I was like, that's so cool, man. I love adoption and all that. And he's like, wait, you're adopted? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, what do you know? I said, well, I think I might have some older siblings. I don't know. Like, I don't know. He's like, there's a brother out there. He's like, we got to find your brother, man. And I was like, all right. And somehow that conversation sparked me to do it. So I do the test. And I'm like, okay, I think it's time because look, it's a box of chocolates. You might get a box of rocks or something. You don't know what you're gonna get, on the other side of this. So, I was like, oh boy.
Still to be determined what you got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just don't know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, take the test and then boom. I'm sitting with that same buddy at work when the notification hits, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I see your name, and I can't remember. I think I called Melanie and told her, and then somehow I got connected with Leslie. I think I messaged her or something, and I was like, hey, I think we might be related. and, and I remember it was kind of a blur. And like you said, it's just a shock to the system, right? You don't know what to feel or act or say or do. And I'm on the road driving back and I'm on the phone with Leslie. And her her voice and her care and her love just came through. And I just it was so kind. I remember exactly where I was when I was talking with her. And she was like, yeah, this is a little weird. I know. Her story was very similar to mine. Adopted, um, adopted into an LDS family and all of that. And so she understood, and I'm just so grateful, that she was there. And, and she's like, okay, it's going to be weird, but Brent's really cool and this, that, and it's, and he's nervous, but I know you're nervous and all this and that. And so if you and I finally get on the phone and we talk and well, unless they start telling me like all these names and it's just like Randy and Stephanie and this and that. And I'm just like, ugh. And there's Michael and there's, and I'm just like, I don't even, I'm like starting to write this down. Okay. Randy. Okay, great. Leslie. Okay, good. I got it. Stephanie, and then so I'm just so a mess. I couldn't even. it's always going on. But yeah, and then you and I talk, and it was so good. And the thought that kept coming to me was just that I just feel so blessed to have more family in my life.
Yeah.
That was like,
Yeah. Yeah,
wow, I'm
exactly.
connected to someone. Um, wow, that's so cool. And I have these half siblings and they're amazing. And I was just like, it's a shock, right? Like you said. Anyway, so that's the day that I found out. And of course, I'm calling my kids and they're all asking questions, and everybody's on Facebook trying to find out who Brent is and who Randy is, and all we're just looking all over trying to like piece it all together. And I see Randy and I see pictures of Randy and see pictures of Leslie, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they look like me. I look like them.
They do. You guys all look alike.
Like it's just blown away, and they're so beautiful and inside and
Yeah.
out. I'm just like, wow, amazing to have more sisters now and brothers and all the rest. And so yeah. And then I think we get together in Park City, right? I don't know how many months later, but
All of us, yeah, we all got together. Did I come and see you first?
oh, that's right. That's right.
Alpine? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So we drive up to Alpine, Melanie's cousin, and yeah, that was we arranged a time to meet and 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 I'll just never forget that moment when we hugged. That's just I don't even know how to say it. It's like my the core, my DNA, my whatever just knew that we were
Yeah.
connected. Like it was just no doubt about it. I had never felt that before. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I was blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So then we all got together and we all, because I have pictures. It's all kind of a blur, but who
yeah.
was all up there? Was Michael and Leslie and Randy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we all went to
I
Park
think
City and
I think
hung out.
Michael and his son, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to dig those pictures up again. But yeah, and we met for dinner down on Main Street, I think it was.
Right.
And then your brother was there,
Yeah.
and and
Steve.
he yeah, Steve, and he walks us down, and he's like, okay, here's where we worked at this shop, and we did this thing in that alleyway, and like just giving us a tour of Park City. It was so
The
cool.
whole family tour of Park City. He loves doing that.
Yeah, that was awesome. And and we go to the house there just off of Main, I think it is, and
Yeah.
just a cool little house, just all made up nice. And I remember sitting next to Leslie, and it was like we'd known each other our whole lives. Just
Yeah.
yeah, we're just, and I'm looking at her. She looks like me. I look like her, and it's just I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. I'm just so blessed to have her in my life.
I just remember that day as like it was like a reunion. It was like we all knew
Yeah,
each other. It was all just so, it was just all so natural and there was no, trying to get along or trying to put on a false face. It was just like we were just all so natural and everybody got along great. And we took all those pictures and my brother was there and I
yeah,
remember him taking us down, and there was a plaque on Main Street with my grandfather. Uh, our my whole family's from there, so my grandfather's pictures on that plaque, and so you got to see your great grandfather and hear some of those stories because Steve knows all the stories about the old Park City and
yeah.
my grandfather and all the bars and stuff in town.
That's right.
But
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
so so here, we've got Leslie, we met Leslie, and now we met Jonathan, and gosh, it just keeps going.
that's right.
and then what was it? About a year later, I don't even know how long. Maybe it was longer. I don't know. Time just kind of is a blur, but
Exactly. Yeah.
I get a I get another phone call, and come to find out I've got another daughter. So, and you've got another sister,
That's right.
and she that's Kelly, and Kelly lives up in Wisconsin, and once again, I got Randy, and Leslie was going to go, but she couldn't go. And I think we invited you as well. But
Yeah.
we went up to Minnesota. And we ended up meeting Kelly and in Minnesota, and hung out with her and her husband and her kids, and got to meet
Nice.
all of them. And so this DNA story just keeps going on and on and on. I remember when we found Kelly,
Yeah.
Leslie being Leslie, she says, Dad, I think I'm gonna rent a billboard on the freeway and put your face on it and say, if this guy looks familiar, he might be your dad. Leslie, how do
That's
you say
right.
things like that?
Were
You
you
know?
born in the 70s?
Uh, holy heck.
Yeah, they got to tease you about that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. So here we are, found out that my dad's not my dad. I'm not Italian, I'm Mexican, and not a part of the cartel, or I'm not in the mafia. And I know Stephanie still gets a big laugh out of all this. And I just, it takes me back to all those talks we had, or she had with my mother around the campfire
Yeah.
in Missouri. And it was I'll bet my mother was just, I'll bet her guts were just churning when Stephanie, kept bringing this stuff up.
Yeah.
And but God bless my mom, and God, I miss her. And I realized that, yeah, this is, I, I think was so close. I've always been a mama's boy. And I was so close to that woman that I remember dates really, really well. But
Mhm.
for some reason, the date of her death, it comes and goes every year,
Mhm.
and I don't remember it.
Mhm.
It's just a blank in my mind. And tonight reminded me that it's right about now. I
Mhm.
think it was the 26th, if I'm right, that she
Wow.
passed away. So
Mhm.
in 2016. So it's very fresh in my mind. But it's and Jonathan, the funny thing is all of my kids, I ended up having six kids. I raised three out of the six. Sometimes I think the ones I didn't raise are probably better than the ones I raised.
Yeah, darn.
But that's not true. I love all my kids, and they all turned out great. I mean, none of them that I know of have addiction problems. They've all, you know, good, useful members of society, and all have big families. I've got 22 grandkids, and
Wow.
I think I just got the 11th great grandchild. So you talk about here I had this little tiny family. I had the little tiny family. I had three kids, and I had one brother. The other brother had passed away, and had this little tiny family. And over a short period of time, it just kept doubling in size because for whatever reason, Michael's got six kids,
Mhm.
or five kids.
Mhm.
You've got how many?
We got six.
You've got six. Leslie's got four.
Yeah.
So, man, I got grandkids, and Kelly's got two. And, it just, holy heck, I got a lot. So I told them all, forget Christmas. I ain't doing that no
Yeah,
more.
that's not.
Grandkids, I can't keep track of birthdays. If they're not on Facebook, I don't even know it's their birthday. So,
Yeah.
it's hard to keep track of all that.
Yeah.
But what a fabulous addition. Like I said, I was so upset when I found all this out,
Mhm.
and to be able to meet everybody, and to to kind of find out who people are, and building relationships. This podcast for you and I is a very powerful tool to get to spend some time together and learn. I for those people out there that Jonathan and I were talking about recovery and some of the things that I'd gone through, and I was telling him a little bit about my story, and that's how this whole thing started.
Mhm.
I've always wanted to do something like this, and I told him about it, and he said, "Well, let's do it." So we went down to the Apple store and bought me a computer and got a microphone and we jumped into this thing. And we struggled with the name for a while, and we came up with the name that push each other to the top. And I just think that that's has been a heck of a tool for not just for me, but for Jonathan and our relationship. And I've been talking to the other kids, and they're really excited to see some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so now everybody knows how we
There
know
you
each
go.
other and how this all thing
Origin.
happened. It's so funny. My boss, my old boss now, but his
Yeah.
name's Ken. Ken is Ken loves my DNA story. Oh my gosh, the guy loves my story,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he loves telling everybody. Somebody will ask me about it, and I start to tell him the story because it's quite a story, and he will not let me finish the story. He has to finish it for me.
and
He
then, and then, yeah.
and then you know what happened? It's like
Yeah.
then he got another phone call
Yeah.
and he laughs, and it's so funny. He loves my DNA story. I probably heard him tell it no less than a dozen times,
That's
and
awesome.
he
Yeah.
just loves telling this story. And
Yeah. It's super
it's
unique. Like, I'm not sure I've met anyone, that have this. I have watched, if there's a show called Relative Race on KBYU TV or BYU TV. And it's all about adopted kids going and finding their relatives, right? And it's this game show sort of thing. And man, every time I watch an episode, I just start bawling. It just hits me because I remember those feelings of first meeting you, and I met people on my mother's side, and a lot of them were like, yeah, we had no idea you were even out there, and every story is just a little different, and I just feel so fortunate, and it's not all been easy either. My mom and dad, I think this is my mom's, one of her big fears for a lot of me growing up was like I'd run away to my, biological family or something. And
yeah,
I respect that because that was her, pride and joy as her children, and still is. And so when I sat down with her and told her what had happened, and because I wanted her to hear from me, and I wanted to sort of ease her into it. It was hard for her to take, and because it's just she's like, I thought I could love you with that. You wouldn't need to go find anyone else, and that's why I try to say it's really not about love or the lack of love because I had it all. I had the best childhood, um, and the best parents, but it just was that thing that every adopted kid has. It's where do I come from? And so and she totally understands that, and she has a different outlook now on all of this, and so I'm really happy and pleased that she's kind of turned a corner, because it is hard. I don't understand it from that perspective, but
right,
I'm glad that she
right,
still loves me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so I I've never really thought about adoption much until I found all these kids that had been adopted.
That's right.
Kelly was the only one that wasn't adopted, but
Okay.
uh, uh, adoption works, and I'm just so amazed by how well it works because it's like your parents are fabulous people. Leslie's parents, oh my gosh, her dad, when he talks, I'm not kidding you. It's like you're talking to a higher power. It's the guy is so amazing. He is so calm
Mm.
and peaceful. You know, I went to Leslie's daughter's wedding in Georgia, And I show up there, and here I'm going to meet the whole extended family. I haven't met any of them, and I don't know what to expect. I'm just like, holy heck, what's going to happen here? And
Right.
nervous as can be, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting there just trying to hide in the crowd. I don't want anybody to really talk to me much, and because I didn't want to explain myself. Well, who are you? Here's all these LDS people. Oh, I'm just some drunk. I mean, what do I say? It's like I just anyway. I was a little intimidated by the whole thing, and
Yeah.
her dad walked up to me and he shook my hand and looked me square in the eye, and he goes, Brent, I don't have any problem with another man out there loving my daughter the way I love my daughter.
Yeah.
And when he said that, it was just like, man, I felt it to my soul. It was like he meant his words. And he told me, he says, you're always welcome at my house. You're always welcome around our family. I just want you to know that. And it was just like, this guy's an angel. I mean,
Yeah, that's cool.
he just meant every word of it. And now her mother, on the other hand, she was cordial, she was nice, but she had her mama bear stuff going on where,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't know about you yet. I'm going to keep an eye on you for a few years before
Yeah. Yeah.
she wraps her. No, she was very kind. But she was a little standoffish when it.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her a bit. I'm not judging
Yeah.
her because I think I'd be more standoffish than she was.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna do mom things. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what my mom was. And I think,
Yeah. It's a little protective.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the mama bear came out a little bit, but it's all worked out so good. I mean, I, s- I talk to everybody, on a regular basis and stay in touch and try to stay in touch with the grandkids. And it's a little more difficult than
Yeah.
trying to get to know them and go through all that. I met your daughters and your sons and your family, and we have dinner and stuff together, and now we live close. I'm in
That's right.
Eloy, Arizona, and you're in Queen Creek, and so we ended up being pretty close, and you're my you're my closest kid, and so
That's right. That's
if
right.
anything happens, you're going to get a phone call.
I'll come running. Yeah.
I'm running.
Yeah. That's right. No, I love it. Yeah. It's been so cool. Yeah. And, I tell people, it's like, it's so strange. Like you're so connected to someone, but yet you really you don't really know them yet. Right.
Right.
This weird mix of you're connected so deeply, but yet we just don't know each other's lives. And I think it's been really cool I guess it's been 5 years now, or maybe almost 6 now,
Yeah.
that we've known each other. And so it's been really cool to build that relationship. And yeah, I just, like I said, it's just another family member. And I'm so blessed to have more family. Like I don't understand why that would be a negative thing at all, right? It's so much a positive in my life. So I'm just so grateful.
You do hear a lot of negative stories out there, though. That people
Oh, yeah.
find, they find their dad or their mom or whatever, and it's kind of scary, or it doesn't work out. That
Yeah.
hasn't been my experience at all. It's been super, super positive, and been it's just been a ton of fun, and it's just it amazes me how powerful DNA is,
Mhm.
because you can feel it when we're together. You can feel it. I mean, it's like I know I have that connection there. Even though that I didn't grow up with you, or
Yeah.
I wasn't there when you were a kid, and blah blah blah. You feel that DNA, and
100%.
it's funny because I get, now I got Delroy and Peggy who live in my neighborhood, and Peggy's always telling me, she goes, "Oh my gosh, how did we not know? You
Yeah.
act so much like my dad." Says your mannerisms, the things you say, the way you act is so much like Roy, my dad, my biological dad,
Yeah. Wow.
which, I knew him, but I hadn't seen him for years and years and years and years and years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was still alive when I found out, but he was 90 years old and
Uh,
he had dementia really bad. And, I just didn't feel like at 90, what am I supposed to do? Run up, I'm your kid. I just didn't feel like I needed to stir that pot. So I didn't see him before he passed away.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was able to go to his funeral and stuff like that. But so
Yeah.
yeah, there's the story, man. That's the story. And it's, just one more incredible chapter to all of this. This episode is kind of off track, what we've been doing, but I thought it was important that people out there understood how that all come to be. That's it. We could write a book just about this, let alone
Yeah.
all the other stuff that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I've lived a full life. Let me tell
That's
you.
right. That's right.
I don't know if I think if you're a guy and you're out there and you're a blackout drunk like I was, you better think twice before you spit in that tube. Because you might
Yeah.
some kids.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're gonna find.
You just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And
the
you're
one I did want to share one more thing about Leslie. When we found Leslie and stuff, she got on Ancestry looking for her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually hired a detective to find her mother, and the detective couldn't find her mom.
Mm-hmm.
So she was, she didn't expect to find me. She didn't even have any hope to find me. She was like, I was looking for my mom. I wasn't looking for you. I think she said it just like that too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I have a friend who works for Ancestry. And I was telling him that story that she was looking for her mom. She hired a detective, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, I can find her mom if you want me to. And I'm like, what? He goes, I said, she hasn't done her DNA. He goes, I can find her. Trust me. And I said, really? And he says, yep. He says, all you got to do is set up an account. He goes, it's usually, it was like $3,000 or something. And he discounted it to like 500. And so before I paid him and got an account going and, kind of getting him moving towards finding her, I thought I'd better ask Leslie. So I called Leslie and I told Leslie, I said, hey, my buddy says that he can find your mom if you want to find her. I don't know at this point if you want to find her, if you want to know who she is or not. So you let me know. You decide. I'll give you some time. You think about it and let me know. So a few days went by, I don't know, a week or so, and she called me on the phone. She goes, yeah, Dad, I'd like to find my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, let me make a phone call and we'll set up the account and everything. So I called my buddy and he put me off to some gal and he got her on the case, and it took 10 minutes, 10 minutes to find that woman. And we had her email address, her phone number, her address, how many kids she had. I mean, we had so much information in 10 minutes. I was blown away.
Wow.
And then, of course, I call and tell Leslie, hey, we found her. I gave her the name and everything. She looked her up on, Leslie's kids were like super detectives. My gosh, they were on the social media. They knew everything about that woman. And so Leslie reached out to her and she freaked. She totally went crazy. And she deleted her Facebook and her Pinterest. Is that what it's called? Pinterest? Something like that. Yeah. And because Leslie had reached out to her, sent her a message through one of them. And Leslie was upset. She called me up and she was just in tears. And I just said, the truth of the matter is, I says, I didn't even know you existed. I mean, I don't have any shame or remorse or anything. I says, your mother gave you up for adoption. She probably has a lot of emotions and stuff to kind of walk through. I said, give her some time. Just sit back and wait and see what happens. I mean, you slammed her right between the eyes, hey, I'm your daughter. Here I am, you know. Well, so she gave her, I don't know, it came around pretty quick, 3 or 4 days. She
Oh,
reached back out to Leslie and opened up her Facebook again and,
good
put
deal.
all her blocks down
Yeah.
well, come to find out, she had four other kids and none of them knew about it, about
Oh,
Leslie.
yeah.
So it was kind of a family secret that nobody knew. So she wanted the opportunity, of course, to reach out to her
Yeah.
kids and say, "Hey, by the way, you've got another sibling
Yeah.
out there."
Yeah.
So
That's tough. It's so hard. Yeah. And that's interesting because I was of the same sort of thing. I wasn't worried about the father. I was worried about finding the mom. Same
right,
kind of thing. Yeah. And and I and that didn't come till later. And that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it's so interesting that Leslie was after that same thing. I don't know why, or maybe that's just a coincidence, but yeah, yeah. So it was a surprise to when I was like, oh, hey, there's the father right away.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That's good.
So you did find your mom.
Yeah,
You found your mother. You had an opportunity to talk to her.
yeah. So I was connected to her sister because her sister had done a DNA test, and and I wasn't, because they don't tell you like this is your mom or this is your aunt, or they just tell you the numbers of how many connections that you have, and they
Yeah,
share.
right.
And it was high, but it wasn't that high, so I knew it probably wasn't mother. But anyway, we get connected, and she tells me this. She starts asking the questions. Well, when were you born, and where were you born, and all this, and then she's like, "Yep, I'm pretty sure you're my sister's son. I'm your aunt." And I was like, "Wow." And and anyway, so we finally she gets me connected through a friend of her sister, and we're able to talk. I had to write a letter first, just explaining to her, look, I have no other intention but to meet you if you want. I just want to tell you thank you. That's it. Like there's no other motive here. Just because I get
Right.
it. You don't know what crazy person is trying to
Yeah, yeah,
connect
yeah.
to you. But we had a good conversation, and we saw and take the DNA test, and I said, well, really, the only way that we can find out is if you do that. Um, and so she finally did, and yeah, it was all confirmed. And
Oh, she did do the test, huh?
mhm,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago now in March, and yeah, I didn't actually get to meet her face to face. She had struggled with some mental health problems all of her life, but I've been able to see my aunt Augusta, and she's just a beautiful woman. She's been so kind, very much like Leslie, just so open arms and loving me, and being really kind and telling me all the story from her side of the picture. And yeah, it's just filled in a lot of gaps for me. So I'm just so fortunate to know my story, and it's
Yeah,
it's just been beautiful. So
yeah, yeah. Wow.
there you go.
Well, I've learned stuff tonight that I didn't know about. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And there's lots of details, but we won't go into that now. But it's just, look, I think it's so interesting that, that it did impact your sobriety or challenged it, at the beginning,
Yes, it did.
and how you overcame that again, went through that fear again, like I think has kind of been the theme of these stories, going through that. And then on the other side, it's been a blessing, and I think that's what this was.
It never ceases to amaze me. That phone rang. It was Elaine. She said she never even touched the phone. What the heck was that? I mean, she said she never even, she didn't, she looks over at her phone and it's calling me. How did that happen? And then Richie B calls me up and says those words to me that, Brent, we're willing to go through a lot of pain to help other people. That's what he said. We're willing to go through a lot of pain to help other people. And
Mhm.
he's right. This whole uh, this whole deal, with the podcast is to push each other to the top, and that's exactly what he was doing. He
Hmm.
pushed me through that moment, and I drove through. You know, uh, I drove through that town, and I was going to stop and get a bottle because I'd gone through so much. And then that voice in my head, if you're really thirsty and you want to drink today, maybe you ought to just wait till tomorrow and see if you feel the same.
Hmm.
And what a wise thing that is to do,
Hmm.
you know. But in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says there'll come a time and a place where you'll have no physical defense from that next drink. And every time there's a little statement like that in the book, not only have I read it, I've experienced it. And that was one more time that I got to experience that little jewel, that I had no physical defense. I had made up my mind that I am going to drink.
Hmm.
And I got 2 phone calls and that voice in my head, and I drove right by that liquor store. Now, you know, is that odd or God? I mean, it's just, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, for sure. It's a
So I
miracle.
look back at those times in sobriety and I'm so grateful that if I would have taken one drink, if I would have stopped and got that bottle that night, we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't have even met. I mean,
Yeah.
my opportunities would have been gone, all those opportunities. So
Yeah.
I'm certainly grateful that I made the right decision, or I didn't make the right decision. Somebody made the decision for me to drive me right past that store. And, I had enough courage and strength to walk through that pain of finding out that my dad wasn't my dad. It still stings a little bit when I say that.
Yeah.
Randy said it better than anybody. She told me one day, she goes, Dad, she goes, you're a Swanson. You grew up a Swanson. You were raised by the man. He is your dad. Nothing's changed but your perspective. So,
I love that. So
yeah,
true.
yeah.
I
So,
feel the same way.
yeah,
You know, my mom who raised me, my dad, yeah, they were there. And he did give me spankings and he did get out his belt and he did teach me to go do my chores and to drive a tractor and go fishing and all the things and so much more. And I tried to reassure my mom that, look, no one can ever take that away from you. You raised me. I am your
yeah,
son. Like that, there's
yeah,
there
yeah.
it
That's
is.
not going to ever change.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah,
the end of
yeah.
that.
And nothing's going to threaten that.
Yeah. And I think coming from your side of the story, yeah, it is hard and that does sting, but I think Randy's right. Yeah. We're who we are by what we've been raised by, but also it's our DNA that still matters and it shows up in strange ways, mannerisms and all the rest. And it's a beautiful thing. I take all of it and embrace all of it. So
Yeah. Well, Randy and Leslie, they seem to blame me for any negative DNA that's going through their system. If they,
it's pretty
oh,
fair.
that's just that, that's the DNA.
That's
The
right.
dad's DNA. So,
That's right. That seems fair. Yeah, that's probably good.
so yeah. Well, Randy's always been the little timid one. She's never wanted to really stir the pot, especially with me. She was always, she was always afraid to say too many things to me that I would get upset. But
Yeah.
Leslie, she doesn't care. She lets me have it with both barrels. So she's turned Randy into a monster, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
has changed Randy. Randy is like
Yeah.
this new person. She has blossomed into this little smart aleck.
Yeah.
Gives dad a bunch of crap. So,
That sounds great. I
yeah.
applaud all of that. Yes, I love it.
Well, that was an interesting episode. We covered our story. Kind of, I don't know if it's off track. It's just part of the way it all is, right? So,
I think it fits right in. I think
yeah.
I think it
So,
totally does. It again, it's that story of going through something hard and fearful and making it to the other side and realizing there's more blessings over there.
yeah, no kidding,
Just,
man.
just just drive right past that bar, drive right past that thing,
Yeah.
go through it, and you're going to end up in a good place. I think that's the message. I don't know. That's what I'm taking out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just one more obstacle that, I was able to walk through without, stumbling and falling.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all good, man.
Yeah.
Life is good,
Awesome.
and you talk about pushing people to the top, man. Richie B was there for me that day, and he pushed me through this thing, and Elaine was there and pushed me, and that's that's what it's all about, is helping each other, walk through hard stuff. And
Yeah.
I,
100%.
these experiences, the story kind of blows me away. I mean, I think that, I find out one day my dad wasn't my dad, and I find 3 kids. I didn't know I had 3 kids. I mean, 3 times that I must have been a bad drunk, because none of those women told me about you guys. they, I think that's a testament about how bad I really was. Nobody wanted to admit that I could have been the father.
Yeah. Who knows what was going on?
Yeah, I don't. That's a whole different episode.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, its life was crazy, and that's okay. I think, yeah, again, it's where we're at today, and I think that's the amazing part, and I, like I said, I embrace it all. So I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm good with it all.
yeah, that's good. All right.
Well, should we call it a wrap then?
Yeah, let's wrap that up.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to our podcast. We appreciate it. And yeah, if you need help or you're reaching out, if you have questions about adoption or recovery or anything, send them our way, and we'd be happy to respond. So we'll see you next time.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Push Each Other to the Top. Brent's story is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's still a path forward and someone willing to walk it with us. If this episode meant something to you, share it. And if you're struggling right now, please know you're not alone. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss the next story. And if you can, leave a quick review. It helps more people find these conversations. New episodes drop soon. We hope you'll come back. Continue listening for behind the scenes moment after we ended the episode.
It never ceases to amaze me how fast the time goes by.
Oh, yeah.
Was that quick, or was
that
that
was an hour and
quick?
10 minutes? Yeah. This just blows right by because
Yeah.
it's just so, I don't know. It's our story. We're invested in it all the way. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
It's
think
our
it's going to be
story.
compelling content for people to, I mean, where have you ever heard a story like this before?
Never.
I know that's what
There is no story like this. I mean, this is so
Listen.
unique that I mean, like, they contacted me. My buddy contacted me, goes, "Hey, can I send some of my producers over to talk to you?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I don't. They wanted to put this on a show,
Oh my
one of their
goodness, yeah.
TV shows.
I could see
And
that. Yeah.
I got thinking about that, and was thinking, man, I'd have to talk to so many people to get permission. It's not just me. I mean, my brother, my siblings, it just on and on and on and on and on. And the last thing I want to do is upset anybody or offend anybody. I'm I'm an open book. I got no shame. I mean, what happened happened. I can't change any of it, and all we can do is look forward and make the best out of it. And that's,
Exactly.
I think we've all done a really, really good job.
And I'm just glad it happened the way it did for me and for Leslie. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is like you said, not every box of chocolate is going to be your favorite, piece, and so you just never know. And I'm just, again, fortunate that, and feel blessed that I have such a good story to tell.
You were raised in a really good, safe home, and I'm just glad that all my kids were raised in a pretty safe environment. I mean, Randy had some challenges, but
Yeah.
I know Leslie, she was the queen of she was the oldest of all the kids. Because her parents started having, couldn't have kids.
Yeah. Same for my parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leslie and I's story is it's so similar. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
yeah, she's a little more outspoken, but yeah. Yeah. My wife
She's
is,
got a huge heart, dude. She's got a huge
I
heart.
know.
I mean, she acts like she's all tough and everything, but
Yeah.
she's got a big heart.
She's gooey in the middle,
Yeah, heck yeah.
huh?
Her and I just hit it off.
Yeah.
It's good.
Same.
It's
Same.
been so much fun
That's
getting to know
good.
her and spending time. Dale's a great guy. Yeah, you guys all have good spouses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is, when we found Leslie, we found a picture of Leslie and Randy, and they both had the same haircut and they had the exact same sunglasses on.
No way.
So weird. And I think Stephanie put them side by side, and it was, oh my gosh, look at those two. Tell me they're not sisters. It was like
Right.
so amazing. And then Leslie's husband is a engineer,
Mhm.
and Randy's husband's an engineer.
Wow.
And they're a lot alike. I mean, their personalities are really similar.
So
It's
interesting.
funny. It's just
So interesting.
what that DNA does weird things.
It's strong. Yeah. I swear every time I watch one of those relative race, that happens all the time. Oh yeah. He was a fireman. Well, so am I. I'm a fireman.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So connected, we don't often realize it. So
Leslie said when she was growing up, nobody in their family likes spices on their food. It's really, really bland. And Leslie was telling me she's like 7 years old going to the store to buy spice for food. She couldn't stand it, None of the others even liked it, and here she is spicing up her food. And
so
it's
funny.
funny how DNA works.
That's so hilarious. Oh,
Yeah.
come on, you Swedish English people. We got to get some spice in this food.
Yeah. Yeah. Hilarious.
That's fun.